And finally, before we go, I want to talk about some of these indicators of site quality that relate to some of the important ecological functions here. So if you notice, if you walk around in here, one thing you notice besides the diameter of the trees is that the trees here are really tall. In addition to the quality of the trees. So saw timber wise, there's a lot of high quality timber in this stand that's really valuable economically. And part of that is due to the good site quality. Part of it is due to the age of the stand. But that good site quality, that the fertile soils here allow these trees to grow taller than sandy sites with lower fertility. So when you're here, you can be struck by the size of the tree, not just in terms of diameter, but height. It's also striking to see the lush understory flora, the lush ground layer here, which you may have noticed, especially at the beginning of the stand. Here it's a little more patchy and uneven than compared to the beginning of the trail. But here's a big lush patch of Virginia waterleaf, Hydrophyllum virginianum, which is an indicator of rich, fertile soils with plenty of soil moisture. Another indicator right here is jewelweed, Impatiens pallida, with the yellow flower right here. And that's an annual plant. So in general, I've been to this forest several times and at different seasons. There's a rich spring ephemeral display in the spring. Lots of wild leeks. Here are some leaf flowers here. So spring ephemerals are plants that emerge in the spring, but senesce their leaves about at the same time as the overstory canopy leaves out. So they're ephemeral in nature. Wild leeks is a spring ephemeral, cutleaf toothwort, Dutchman's breeches, Dicentra species, spring beauties. So the presence of an abundant and diverse spring ephemeral community is another indicator of high site quality. Individual species like this doll's eye actea or white baneberry is another indicator of a fertile site. Another one here that I don't see right now, but that's here, is giant cohosh, Caulophyllum. A good indicator of a very calcareous, nutrient-rich, fertile site. Trilliums are here. There's some jack in the pulpit. So lots of good plants, and many of these jewelweeds appear to be browsed by deer. It is notable that these jewelweeds and Virginia waterleaf are so abundant here, given the high deer populations. But generally in an agricultural landscape like this, forests tend not to be overgrazed because the deer have plenty of good food to eat outside of the forest. So they'll eat in the agricultural fields or the prairies, and not just devastate the forest understory like they do in some other areas that have lower density but not as much of an agricultural component to the landscape. So in terms of old growth, composition, structure, and function. This understory is notable because a lot of these species are very sensitive to disturbance like plowing, and they have short distance seed dispersal mechanisms or disperse vegetatively. So it takes them a long time to recolonize a forest. And moreover, there must be a source for that recolonization. So if all the surrounding landscape is agriculture, there's not going to be sources of seed to recolonize a recovering stand. So it's notable that we have such a rich and diverse and productive understory layer here, given this, at least portions of this forest may have been tilled and tapped and disturbed for maple sugaring, if not other timber uses, that these plants have recovered. And part of that is surely due to the amount of time it's been since that disturbance. So if we look back to the oldest trees in the stand, about 186 years. So that wraps up our tour of Camillus Forest Unique area, focusing especially on old growth characteristics in this old forest at the top of the hill here, and thinking about how structure, age structure, basal area and density, as well as the structural characteristics of snags and coarse woody debris on the forest floor interacts with composition, so species composition, functional, the life history characteristics and traits of those species to influence the functions of this forest. So what is it providing in terms of values and services? Certainly a lot to consider here. In addition to the commercial values, non-commercial values, and ecosystem services, as well as spiritual values. So I'm sure you all have a lot of thoughts on this, and I very much look forward to your reports. Thanks. Bye-bye.